Well, Lisdar is an idea that has become a reality. It's a acronym for Liechtenstein, Sustainable Development and Responsible Investing. And it commenced in 2008 with an initiative by the Hochschule here, when I started becoming a professor here, supported by an American company and foundation, to create a platform for responsible development and investment in property. And when we launched that, at the beginning of this, or sort of at the height of the financial crisis, we found that 75% of the participants of this 3-day event were bankers, Swiss bankers mostly, UBS and so on. And we realized there was a real interest from the investment, from the banking community in this question of property development, even though they were not from property. So we said, there's something larger there. And so we said, well, what if this became the kind of Davos of responsibility in investment, in economics, in infrastructure, property, values, philosophy, the arts and so forth. And that could resonate well with an idea to turn the, at the time, lagging image of Liechtenstein into something positive. I was personally interested in that because I didn't want to go to Germany every time people said, you work in Liechtenstein, that's where they launder the money, and I said, well. So we said, well, from black to green, maybe there is not a slogan, but a notion. Because it's not good enough to be white, to be not on the blacklist. You need to actually create a positive vision forward. And so it's hard to build foundations. It's hard to build companies. It's hard to build a business model that really works. But it's relatively easy to bring people together on a platform of exchange that a university can support. And so a conference, or as I call it, a congress, because it's 3 different conferences in one package, that we can do. It doesn't take much. I mean, it takes enormous amount of effort, organizational effort and participation by everyone, but essentially it takes very little capital, it takes very little time out of people's lives that's not committed to something else already. You actually resonate with people's interests. And so we offered it to the government, offered it to a private wealth manager, Kaiser Ritter Partners. We offered it back to our supporters in the United States. And then we said, well, we want to continue this, we want to invest in this, so to speak. And lo and behold, the community of sustainability operators in the country all participated because they didn't feel threatened in their turf by a university or by a Hochschule. It's a very divided community. It's a very competitive community. And if you try to speak to anyone on their own terms and propose something to them, they're very aware of everyone else and they don't want to be involved unless they're really in control of it. Here it's different. We are doing it not because we want to compete with anyone, we want to give access to this. So Lisdar is a kind of platform of exchange, but it's also scientifically neutral event. I really hope that it moves into an institution that not just happens every year, but it also engenders a kind of exchange between the events, but also becomes an institution of publishing, institution of exchange, institution of learning, and helps anchor some of the teaching we do here. Because when we teach and research, where do we publish it? We could publish it to this conference and the products that come out of this conference. And we want to continue to do it in Liechtenstein because we already have people asking us, well, do you want to do it somewhere else next time? We said, no, this is something that should help support the country.
I think sustainability should be a very important topic for Liechtenstein in the years to come and also from 2020 onwards, it should be considered very broadly. On the fiscal side, I think our state household should be sustainable. On the social security side, our pension system, our healthcare system, our unemployment systems should be sustainably financed, also for future generations, and particularly also on the environment. We should ensure that we have sustainable systems there as well. How can we do that? I think on those various areas we need the right reforms, be it on the fiscal household, be it that we reform our social security systems, and on the environment, have the right reforms to encourage people to take environmental issues as serious as possible. If one thinks how in the past society failed, it was very much also that they depleted their resources and failed as a result of that. And so we really have to look at our ecological footprint as well.
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate the organizers for this Congress. In my view, it was a big and a great success, and I hope this Congress will go further and will take place in the next years. And to the role of the government, I think we have two topics. First of all, legal certainty is a very big cornerstone for the financial sector, and therefore we work hard and we want to create a new framework in this view, and a framework for sustainability. And the second cornerstone is strategic certainty, and therefore we created the Agenda 2020. The agenda is now finished, and we have published the agenda this week, and I hope we have a big discussion about this agenda in the next years. Thank you.
Sustainability is a fixed component and a very important pillar of the philosophy and the strategy of the University of Liechtenstein. We understand sustainability as a reconciliation of environment, social and economic demands. In our undergraduate, graduate and executive programs, sustainability is not an autonomous field or a discipline of its own, but it is oriented towards guiding decision making. Furthermore, we have a quite successful research program focused upon sustainability. I think that on this way, our graduates, our students, our lecturers, and our researchers contribute a lot to a sustainable future of our beautiful Alpine Rhine Valley.
Yeah. We try to apply responsible investing principles. What is that? First, we talk to the client to understand what his values are. Secondly, we try to understand the big picture development. So what are the drivers of global change, what is influencing the world, and we want to navigate, what we say, on the right side of change. Thirdly, it is to have a long-term investment strategy, not just meeting the short benchmark in the markets. And then we are selecting those investment managers who subscribe to the values of the client. And fourth, of course, it is then to monitor not only the financial criteria, but also the value-based criteria. Practically, when it is about finding out what kind of company we want to invest, we apply so-called ESG criteria, which is to find out what are the ecological, social and governance parameter. How do companies really apply to that?
Thanks for this question. Social responsible investments or socially responsible investments, short SRI, is a quite important topic. We can more or less see in this word two groups of social responsible investments, the traditional and the alternative social responsible investments. I want to have a quick answer for the traditional ones. There are more or less the same than for the other financial market products, so you have the financial key indicators. More important is to measure the social performance or the financial performance for the alternative ones, and for that reason you can have forestry, climate, green property or microfinance in this field. And in terms of, or in the perspective of microfinance, it's quite important to have an indicator, an additional indicator for social performance measurement. And at this point we have some ideas how to measure, but there's no real standard, there's no code of conduct in this industry, and they try to measure that with the quotes of female, the gentle question, the topic of the impact of the families of the microcredit. And so it's a quite open question for research, and yeah, therefore we have Lisdar, and hopefully we can have another task force for that question too. Thanks.
Thank you for such a wonderful question, because many questions we ask about sustainability and other complex interactions with our environment cannot be answered because we don't know the future. But in this specific case, we know that you have a better chance than the big ones. In fact, typically large countries determine what the future looks like. But probably as far as sustainability and creating an environment for a more meaningful life, Liechtenstein is much better prepared than some of the big eight. And I'm excited to be part of this process. This is the second symposium on sustainability and responsibility. And I have seen a dramatic improvement from the first attempt to this three-day convention. Improvement not only quantitatively but also qualitatively. That again is proof that Liechtenstein is the right place to attract the right people from all over the world to do the right thing, which is to talk about an experiment that will allow us to see if this small country can become the window to the world.
I believe the category small countries like Liechtenstein doesn't exist as such. Liechtenstein is a very special country, and I believe the most important economic activity in Liechtenstein is the financial sector. Reflecting on what the financial sector voluntarily or accidentally does to resource conservation or to resource destruction is a very important thing to do. And of course there are fabulous firms like Kaiser Ritter Partners who are doing exactly that, reflection on what capital is doing and trying to help making this a better world.
Well, sustainability will require investment, finance, knowledge and political will. I think where a country like Liechtenstein can offer is a lot of knowledge about finance and how markets might work and how we might create new markets for new products. I think there's huge opportunity in a country that has a long history of finance and is committed to ecological management. So the two coming together, it seems to me, is a logical place for Liechtenstein to have a competitive and comparative advantage.